welcome back. It is the Vegas Take Sharp and Shapiro. That is the sound of the Boxmasters. Billy Bob Thornton and the Boxmasters, they're going to be performing this weekend at Red Rock. And, I've seen these guys for years perform here in Las Vegas, and it is an honor and a privilege to have Billy Bob Thornton and lead guitar, bass, and vocals, J.D. Andrew, joining us. Now, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. How are you?
How you doing, guys?
Good. Good.
Thank you so much. So I guess I got to start out by asking you this. Billy, I'll start with you. You guys have been playing Vegas a lot over the course of many years. First time I saw you guys, it was at Hard Rock. I think it was over 10 years ago on the old joint. You guys just keep coming back here, and the fans keep coming out. Talk to me a little bit about your history and coming out here to Vegas and playing here.
Well, Vegas is always a great place to play, and we've also played a lot of places in Vegas that weren't necessarily in the very tourist heavy areas. So we've gotten to know a lot of the local people there over the years playing. We've developed a following there of people who actually live in Vegas, and it's always great. Of course, we love to see the people from everywhere else too.
Sure, of course.
I'm just saying that, most people assume when you play Vegas, nobody from Vegas comes. They're all from Nebraska or New Jersey or whatever. But we've actually seen a lot of the locals there over the years, as well as people from all over the world. And,
sure.
Vegas is one of the when you play there, the people really take care of you. The fans are great. The people at all the venues are great, and it's always been a fun time there. And it's just fun to come to Vegas anyway. But when you're playing there, it's kind of doubly fun.
Sure. JD, do you have any fun hot spots that you like to attend when you go to Vegas?
Well, kind of all of us are all pretty old school. So, anytime we can, hit some of the, downtown spots, or anytime we can feel like we're part of the Rat Pack hanging around a little bit,
sure.
That's the part of Vegas that we, kind of gravitate to. A few years ago, we got to go see Frank Sinatra's dressing room.
Oh, wow.
Over at the one that... Frankie.
What is Frankie's name? Frankie, the entertainer. Frankie, it does a show, a 50s show.
Oh, Frank Shinta.
Really cool.
Anyway, we got to go hang out, and he had kind of restored Frank's dressing room.
That's great.
We got to go over there, and our old bass player was friends with him, and so he took us over there. So, it was real special to see some of the history, because
no doubt,
Vegas is always reinventing itself, so there's not much of the history that you can see, but there was this one little sliver that we got to go.
That's cool. That's cool.
And that's exactly.
Yeah, Billy, I want to talk a little bit about your history. Growing up in middle school, right? You were already playing in bands in middle school. You worked as a roadie. Tell people a little bit about your history. You grew up as a musician very young. You started very young.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. I mean, the first band I was in, like all kids at that time who saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, we all had bands. And as a matter of fact, in those days, in the sort of mid '60s, kids used to say, "We have a Beatle band." No matter what you played, they called it a Beatle band. And But my first band was when I was, a little kid, and we played songs like, House of the Rising Sun and Hanky Panky and all that stuff, and then when I got a little older in my early teens, we got pretty serious about it, and by the time I was in my late teens, I was in a band that had opened for Richie Havens and Scruggs Review and Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes and Black Oak, Arkansas, and Humble Pie, a bunch of people. And because the regional bands used to open for the big name bands, and
sure.
So I had been able to do that. So by the time I was in my late teens, I'd played before 20,000, 30,000 people at a time. Sometimes at festivals, and then I I started working for a sound company and became a roadie for this sound company, and I had the opportunity to, work on tours with people like the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band and Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And as a matter of fact, back then, when we did the shows with the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, Steve Martin was their opening act.
Oh, my gosh.
And so I got to see Steve Martin as a youngster,
Wow.
And this was when he wasn't very well known, And we
Sure.
thought, God, this guy's hysterical. He's going to be a huge star. Sure enough, he became one. Yeah.
I think you were right, Billy. You did pretty good. I want to ask both of you guys this question. I guess the first question I would ask, biggest crowd, because you guys have been together for a long time, biggest crowd you guys ever played. And the second question would be, do you guys still ever get nervous before you get on stage? Because listen, I've had the luxury back in the day of interviewing Tom Petty. I've met some musicians that have been around for a while, like yourselves, and some people give me different answers. Some people say they still get a little nervous before they get up there on stage. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, I think we still, I mean, I think before every show you have some nerves, and I think it actually. Excuse me, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to have a little nerves before you go on stage. If you feel flat and you're not nervous and you just look at it as another drab day, I think you probably won't have much excitement in yourself, to give the audience, So I think it's kind of an important thing to have a little nerves. And sometimes, when you're playing a place that's really important to you, and let's say you're going to have some VIPs in the audience or something, sometimes you can get really nervous. And
So can I just interject and ask you, Billy, have you played shows like that where you knew that somebody very famous or somebody that you admired was in the crowd and that actually affected you and made you a little more nervous? Can you give us an example?
Oh, yeah. Many times we've especially when you're on a bill with at a festival, and you know that some of those people are going to be standing there backstage on the side of the stage watching you, and plus, we have opened for quite a few people
Sure.
that we admire, But
we've also, we sometimes in Memphis, that's a big spot where, we'll have some people come out. But one show we had Jerry Lee Lewis show up.
Oh, wow.
And
That's a big
as well
deal.
as Mickey Gilley, and they hadn't seen each other, and they were cousins. They hadn't seen each other in 20 years, and they, saw each other for the first time on our bus. And so, those are extremely nerve-wracking. And we played the Ryman Auditorium with Levon Helm one time at Levon's Ramble at the Ryman. And that building right there will make you nervous just standing in it and just thinking about going on that stage, with all the legends that have been on there.
Sure.
And so that one was one where I felt like I was going to throw up just as I about went on. And you asked about the biggest crowd. We
Sure.
played at the Hog Rally in Milwaukee. And it's all, I don't know, thousands and thousands of bikes. But there was something like, 250,000 people there.
Oh, my God.
And I think, there's only 60 or 80,000 people watching us at that point. We were playing with Kid Rock and Sugarland and a few other acts. And
that's an NFL stadium, though.
but
That's huge.
It's a lot of people.
All right,
I think when we went, actually, JD, I think when we went on stage, I was told that there were over 100,000 people there.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
It was, you couldn't tell. I mean, it was so big. And honestly, it's so vast. The people are so, so far back and all over the place that you're less nervous playing in front of a crowd like that because they're so far away and there's no personal connection to them.
Right.
That you just, jump around on the stage a little bit.
Sure.
But when you have a crowd of, a couple hundred right up close to you and staring you in the eyes, that's a lot harder.
Sure. I'd like
a big crowd.
I'd like to think that's about the number of listeners that we have right now, right?
Something along those lines. Sure. All right, so two questions.
To tell you the truth, I mean, the most nervous I ever get is like if we were to come into you guys' studio,
Yeah.
with just a couple of guitars, and we're going to play two songs live on the radio, and we're sitting like 3 or 4 feet from you guys, and we know we're going out to all those listeners. I mean, that's when you really get nervous.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true.
Because you can't take it back.
Exactly.
That's true.
All right, so 2 questions for you. The first one, have you played the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville? And the second one, for listeners who have not heard you before, what is your music comparable to? Other bands.
Well, we have played the Grand Ole Opry, and that made us nervous for 2 reasons. One is it's the Grand Ole Opry, and the other one was because we're not a country band. So it was a little bit like, oh, geez, is this going to be like the Blues Brothers? Maybe we need to play "I'll Walk the Line" or something here. But we took a couple of songs that were as close to country as we have, and we played those, and so that was very daunting. I mean, the honor of playing in a place like that is just it's overwhelming, and I kind of answered the other question there too, but we are a rock and roll band, very influenced by the Beatles and the Byrds and Big Star and the Kinks and the Animals and the Beach Boys, Bench people like that. So we're just a rock and roll band of guys who, as kids, were influenced very heavily by the Beatles and the Byrds and people like that. So we have had some comparisons to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. So it's in that vein of music.
Sure. So Billy, not to bring up that interview you did years ago on QTV, which I think you look back at it now and you laugh at it, but is it still annoying to you to this day when you're trying to promote a show and you guys are well established and been together for such a long time, and when people ask you questions about your movie career, when you're trying to promote, a concert, does that still annoy you today?
Now QTV, is that they're the ones that sell like Vegematics and all that? Right? No, because I don't remember QTV. I thought that's like the home shopping deal, right?
I think.
No, I'm joking, of course.
Of course.
No, no, you know what? I've never been bothered by that. That whole thing was a misunderstanding with the public. It was kind of strange that I was vilified for that when all I was doing was protecting my bandmates. I'm happy to talk about the movies.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, I'm all for it. What I had asked those people was to please not introduce us as me, the Academy Award winner.
Right.
And I'm in town with these third wheels here who just happen to be along, and we're going to do this thing.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
All I said to them was, please introduce us as the Boxmasters, and then I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about.
And I would imagine that it also adds up that you're there at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I can't even wake up before 8 a.m. let alone, and you guys are there early in the morning.
If you ever make it to the sunny metropolis of Toronto and go to the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation's office, you'll understand why everybody there is miserable. And it's I just have to tell you. So we walk into the place, and it is 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and we asked somebody if they had any coffee, and I believe it was the engineer in the studio or something like that. So he was over there kind of by the board messing around with some stuff. We said, hey, is there any place we could get a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, downstairs in the lobby in the coffee shop. And so we're like, okay, I guess
it's not very accommodating.
Hospitality's not a selling point here. So
not at all.
So we then we went outside. Billy's going to have a cigarette, and the guy was yelling at him about taking his cigarettes out of his pocket.
Oh my God!
There's it's winter in Toronto.
It's cold,
and so it's really cold. They have a painted line in between the buildings where that is the smoking section. We went
weird.
And stood there, and where the wind was tearing through between the buildings, and we stood in this painted line, and then went in and.
I understand. Listen,
and,
they
had a good old time.
One of those deals, and And that was strictly all about somebody looking me right in the eye and saying, you know what, I don't care what you want. I'm introducing you however I want to.
Yeah.
And so that's what people didn't see was the challenge that was made.
That's understandable.
And I simply said, please introduce my guys, to as equals. And then after that, honestly, it doesn't bother me at all when people want to talk about movies because there's no denying I have made a lot of movies and I've been successful at certain points with them, and I'm all for talking about them. It doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, but let's also promote the fact that you guys, Billy Bob Thornton and the Boxmasters, you're going to be performing at the Rocks Lounge, and it's going to be Saturday night. Tickets are very affordable, reasonable, $35 to $59. Billy, the first time I saw you guys, like I said, it was over a decade ago in Vegas at the Joint, the old Joint, and the first thing I noticed, I had never heard your music before, right? I walk in there and I see how much fun you guys are having on stage. And Billy, you're running all over the stage. There's girls up there dancing. The music is great. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this guy's like Mick Jagger. He's like Mick Jagger up there. Where do you get all that energy?
That was the one. We had 2 shows where we had dancers, and then you were at one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, I got to say, I used to run around stage. That was a long time ago. Now, I was like Mick Jagger is at that time. Now I'm like what Mick Jagger should be like. He's like nearly 80. We're pretty. We just kind of stand there and play good, rock and roll songs for people. But I am pretty engaging with the audience. In other words, we don't like to just come up there and rattle off 20 songs and walk off stage.
Right.
We actually do like to interact with the audience. And a lot of times, I'll tell some stories about how a song originated or what it's about or something like that. And we do tend to talk to the audience a lot and include them because, if you're going to pay a ticket, you don't want somebody to just come out there and turn their back on you.
Of course. You want to be intimate with the fans. I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
All right. I want to ask you guys a serious question here. A lot of musicians, whether you're an actor, musician, a lot of people with a platform have been speaking out about, the horrible tragedies that have been taking place in regards to these mass shootings. As you know, October 1 is a day that Las Vegas will never forget. What do you obviously, this is for people to get away from some of the terrible things that have been happening and enjoy your show and come out to your show. But I just want to get your opinion. What are your thoughts on what is taking place in America today with some of these horrible tragedies that have been taking place, particularly over the weekend?
Well, we were very close to one of them. We were playing in West Texas when the thing happened in El Paso, so we were only about...
Oh, my goodness.
We were like 3.5 hours away from it at the time.
Oh, my God.
If that far, honestly. We were in... We were in like Yorktown or in Monahans or something. So we were in West Texas.
So that's got to hit home. That's got to hit home for you guys, right?
Yeah, it was really. I got to tell you, we had already had one because we live in California, and my family lives up in my family and my wife's family live in Northern California, and we make that trip every couple of months with our daughter and my wife and I, and to see the family, and we pass through Gilroy all the time where that thing happened at the Garlic Festival there in Gilroy. That's one of our normal stops. So, for all we know, we've met some of those people there that were involved in that.
Sure.
So the fact that there were 3 in a row like that, it tells us that, something's got to be done about this. And because it can't become the norm, and it's slowly becoming that, or quickly becoming that, really.
Yeah.
And after that thing in Vegas, my gosh, everybody there in L.A., because we're kind of like almost a sister city to Vegas there. We're so close to you guys, and we all go to Vegas so much. And, it's a wonderful entertainment city, and you want to feel, like you can go there and do something without some crazy thing happening like that.
Yeah.
And the thing is that so many, the people who are involved in those things, they're so innocent because they're random targets.
Right.
For the most part. Every now and then you find out, there's been a personal thing involved, but most of the time these things are the people who are hurt are randomly chosen, and I don't know if it's these topics are so touchy these days with people, and you want to talk about what do we do about guns, or what do we do about mental health, and I think for sure, and now this is my personal opinion. And I may be completely off base with this, but I think mental health and gun issues are two things that need to be dealt with. But I also believe that that the way people communicate these days on the internet, that
social media,
social media, I think has depersonalized people so much. And I think people get talked about on the internet, and people can just say the nastiest things about each other they want, and you get involved in these talks on there and start reading about radical groups and
it's scary
things, and I think social media absolutely contributes to it.
Oh, no question. No question. Well, I want to say this, though. This is a chance for people to maybe get away from all the madness and some of the negatives that are taking place in society today. Check out you guys for a couple hours. Listen to some great music. You guys are just unbelievable, fantastic musicians, and you guys have been around for a long time. Thank you so much, Billy and JD. Congratulations on all your success, and thank you so much for taking some time to join us, man. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you guys for having us on. It's always good to be on here with you, and thank you guys for having a great show.
Thank you, Billy. That means a lot.
Thanks a lot, right. Billy, JD.
We appreciate that. All right, you guys have a great show. Thank you so much. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Billy Bob Thornton and the Boxmasters will be at Red Rock this Saturday, 8 p.m. Check it out. Get your tickets. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.